On this video we are gonna analyze how Netherlands knocked out the United States. In Zone A, Netherlands had 4 players to start the build-up, however the Americans had 4 players to cover the passing lines to Zone B. When the center-backs moved the ball to Zone B, the Jong joined them, but USA had 6 players in the central channels and left space on the flanks. Nevertheless, when Netherlands wing-backs dropped back to receive the ball, the Americans full-backs went to press them. On the other hand, when USA had the ball in their half, Netherlands dropped back in a mid-block, yet they had individual marking in the midfield. On Netherlands' goal kicks, USA pressed with a 1-4-3-3 where they tried to cover the central channels, but when the Dutch wingbacks received the ball, they pressed them and recovered the ball. However, Netherlands' midfielders were aggressive in defensive transitions. When the 3 centre-backs tried to start the build-up, they didn't have clear passing lines in the central channels, therefore they moved the ball to the wings, but the Americans were able to have numerical superiority on the flanks and start their offensive transitions. On Netherlands' first goal we saw something similar, where the centre-backs moved the ball to the flanks. The Americans had numerical superiority, yet Adams is far from his mark, who is Memphis Depay, and he is able to pass and create a passing line for Klaassen, who moved away from his mark and also received with time. As USA tried to accumulate people on the right flank, Netherlands had numerical superiority on the opposite flank with Gaal and Dumfries. One American midfielder dropped back as a center-back, thus there were only 2 midfielders. That's why Depay saw a space between the defenders and the midfielders. When Netherlands had the ball in the opposite half, their offensive structure was with 4 at the back, 1 midfielder and 5 strikers, since the Jong joined the centre-backs. However, it was hard for them to find spaces and create danger. That's why their second goal came from a throw-in, where Klaassen found a free space and passed back to Dumfries. Again we can see the space between the Americans' midfielders and their defenders. Blind detected that and ran to the space to score. When USA tried to play out from the back, Netherlands' defensive structure was 3-5-2, however they didn't press high and the American centre-backs could move the ball to Zone B. Pulisic and Weah gave width and numerical advantage on the wings. Also Robinson overlapped on his flank and helped Pulisic to be near Netherlands' box. When the Dutch dropped back with 5 at the back, it was easier for the Americans' fullbacks to find a space and progressed with the ball. Also, a midfielder joined them to have the same number of players on that zone. Another way to progress for the Americans was thanks to the movements without the ball of the strikers. Pulisic moved inside to create a space for Robinson. On the second half, the Americans were more aggressive on pressing and even had numerical superiority in different zones. This forced the Dutch to play backwards and made mistakes. USA goal came from a corner kick. The Dutch cleared the ball, yet the Americans had numerical superiority on the rebound zone. That's why Blind stayed in the central channels to balance this. However, he left free to Pulisic, who crossed the ball for right. He ran to the first post and overcame Virgil van Dijk. Netherlands' third goal came when they recovered the ball in the opposite half. Blind ran to the space to have the same number of players on the left flank. First, Depay made great movements without the ball to create a passing line, but also he dribbled to attract players and free his teammates. As Blind received with space, he had time to see that Dumfries is free on the second post. But why is he free? Robinson should have been in the same height of the second post. However, he didn't look back and tried to mark one striker, but there was a center back for that. Leave your thoughts about this game, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by Mètrica Sports, the fundamental tool for every coach and analyst. Create and manage all your video analysis in one platform. Use coupon NasirCelada at checkout for a 10% discount.